everybody. Welcome to week 9. All right, we are moving right along. This week, we talk about functioning as a change agent and as a leader. And both of these, regardless of your type of nursing education position, you're going to be called upon for these two things. Leadership and change tend to go hand in hand. In academia, you might be changing curriculum, you might be revising a course, you might be asked to add more active learning strategies into your classes, things like that. In the clinical arena, as a change agent, you might be tasked with implementing new policies, new procedures, new equipment. There might be a new type of surgery that the facility is going to be doing that the nurses need to know about. So you never know what you might be called to. And then, of course, in patient education, there's all sorts of things. Like now, we're talking about inhaled insulin, and that's going to require a whole bunch of changes as far as patient education materials and changing way of thinking with the staff and the patients. I mean, there's all sorts of things. And then also working on changing patient behaviors to get them more healthy behaviors. We can definitely act as a change agent at the bedside. So this can apply regardless of the setting you find yourself in as an educator. So on the leadership side, last week we talked about servant leadership and had a good discussion about that. And I do believe that that is the correct way of approaching things with our current nurses. They're professionals. They want to be involved. So this week I'm attaching something that has to do with developing a clinical leadership plan. And a little bit is about self-assessment and where is your knowledge base on different components of being a clinical leader. And that then helps you to think about, oh, I've got to develop a plan to address possible deficit areas or just things maybe I don't know quite enough about that I'd like to know more about. So I'm attaching that article for you. And then, one other thing in that article that I want to point out, it talks about the 3 C's, communication, collaboration, and coordination. Oh, those are so huge to being a nurse educator. So I especially want you to kind of pay attention to that piece of the article. All right, back to being a change agent. I think sometimes in the clinical arenas in education, things don't go as expected for change because we don't think about it or we don't have enough time. We don't necessarily plan for the process of our change very well. I particularly like the change theory of Kurt Lewin, and he deals a lot with force field theory. So pushing and resisting forces has a lot to do with change. And the basics of his theory are that you need to prepare people to change, and in his lingo it's called unfreezing. People need to know why a change is occurring. Does somebody just think of this off the top of their head? Is it evidence-based, this change? Is it based on new accreditation criteria? Why do we need to do it? And what is so bad with the current way that we're doing things? Once people have that information, they might be a little bit more open to what you have to say about a new change being implemented. So then, so that's unfreezing, and then moving or changing, and that's the actual implementation of the change. And it's looking at things like, let's say you wanted to make a change to nursing staff. Well, when are you going to offer in-services? Are they going to be in person? Are they going to be in line? How do we make sure the night shift is involved? Are we going to use different learning strategies to assess our different learners with various preferences? How long information are we going to present? Are we going to chunk it up into short pieces so that people can digest it? What else is being taught or presented or changed at the same time? Do we have too many things going on? What's the timing like? So all those things go into that moving or changing part of it. Then we've got refreezing, and that's getting the change to stick. and doing things to motivate people and encourage people to implement this new change and not revert to their old ways. I was working in a NICU in the earlier part of my career. We had these certain IV catheters. I think they were like Gelco or something. Anyway, we loved them because teeny preemies, I mean, you need to have a really teeny and really good IV catheter to get those little veins. And the hospital wanted to change over to a new IV catheter. And at that time, there weren't a lot of nurses that had input into what supplies the hospital used. We thought they were just being cheap. We didn't really see advantages. And so what happened is the nurses stockpiled all the old IV catheters. So when they had a patient who had bad veins, they could grab one of those old IV catheters and knew that they could get it. Plus, there's a psychosocial aspect. We had people who were like the IV kings and queens of the NICU, and they could use these IV catheters. Well, when you introduce new equipment, those kings and queens might not still always be the kings and queens. And so you've got some issues that way. And in this situation, I think if the hospital had involved the informal leaders on the unit and those that were really good at IVs and made a good case for why they were switching, if there was a quality reason or something like that, so that we wouldn't all assume it was financial, I think that change would have been much more smoothly implemented. So a lot of things to consider when we're going to be change agents. But if we can use a change theory and have a very deliberate process of change, rather than just trying to ram something through, we're going to be a lot more successful. So I just wanted to bring up that. If you have a change theory that you like and want to tell us about that, that would be great. Or if you want to tell us about a successful or an unsuccessful change that you've been involved in, we would also all benefit from hearing your experience with that. All right, I am actually coming to you this week from my family room because it's really, really hot outside, too hot to shoot my videos. Today, let me see if I can show you, I have on my Vacation Bible School t-shirt because it's our last night of Vacation Bible School at my church, and I have been working with a little group of 5- and 6-year-old little boys who are very active. We've had a fun time, but I'm ready for it to be the last night. All right, enough about me. I think that's about it. So I'll see you in the main forum, and hopefully we'll have some great discussions. Bye.